Today I want to talk about physics, which is a Greek word meaning stuff nobody understands, especially the people explaining it. Most people think physics is about understanding the universe. I have long suspected it is actually a complex hazing ritual designed to make normal people feel like idiots for owning a ruler. Recently, I watched a video by physicist Sabine Hossenfelder that completely melted my brain. She was talking to a clean-shaven man who looks suspiciously like me about a new theory claiming that the entire universe, mass, distance, gravity, the inexplicable popularity of pickleball can be explained using only one thing: time. Now, normally I would rely on my research assistant, Kyle, to explain this to me. However, Kyle is currently engaged in a violent struggle to get the office printer to stop printing the entire internet in magenta. So I had to figure this out myself. Naturally, I did what any serious journalist would do. I panicked, I assumed my refrigerator was judging me, and then I realized I need to monetize this. If time is money and mass is time, then logically my heavy laundry pile should be worth a fortune. What follows is the true story of how I tried to solve dark matter, rewrite the laws of thermodynamics, and turn a MacBook M3 into a philosopher's stone. Please take the following with a grain of salt, or perhaps a grain of cesium, which I am told is more accurate. Here is the summary of the situation, which I promise I'm not making up. The problem is we have too many units. Apparently, we have been walking around carrying way too many fundamental constants. The International System of Units has 7 of them, including the candela, which I assume measures how romantic a dinner is. Physicists have long suspected that most of these are unnecessary, kind of like that drawer in your kitchen full of twist ties and batteries that might be dead. The solution, according to this new theory, is to just use a clock. A group of physicists has now proved that the entire universe can be explained using only one single measurement device: a clock. That's it. You don't need a ruler to measure distance or a scale to measure mass. You just need to know what time it is. How does this work? Well, according to the video, you use a 3-clock experiment. This involves one person sitting at one end of a rod and another person at the other end, passing clocks back and forth like hot potatoes. Step 1, send a clock to your friend. Step 2, synchronize it. Step 3, send it back. Step 4, use an equation that looks like it was written by an alien to figure out how long the rod is. At this point in the explanation, there are more clocks than conclusions, which is also how I feel about daylight saving time. But here's where it gets really interesting. Once you have this time measurement system set up, you can apparently use it to measure mass too. You can now be late by a meter. This is excellent news for me because next time I miss a deadline, I can just tell my editor that I wasn't late, I was just heavy. Sabine gives this theory a 1 out of 10 on the bullshit meter, where 1 is good apparently, meaning it's actually a solid scientific contribution. However, she notes that the whole thing falls apart if you try to use it for quantum gravity, because at that scale, clocks get confused by noise and stop working. The universe is essentially a giant alarm clock that we can't turn off. So after learning all this, I was thoroughly entertained, but then I had a thought: if we treat time as the only real thing, does it fix anything else that is currently broken? And I realized the answer might be yes, and it involves the biggest embarrassment in modern astrophysics: dark matter. The following is definitely not peer-reviewed, but my dog barked at it twice, which I take as confirmation of validity. Here's the unsolved problem: who hid the rest of the universe? Right now, physicists are in a panic because galaxies spin too fast. Based on the visible stuff, stars, gas, dust, Starbucks locations, there isn't enough gravity to hold them together. They should fly apart like a cheap ceiling fan. To fix this, scientists invented dark matter, invisible, undetectable space ghosts that supposedly make up 85% of the universe's mass. It's a classic plug number, like when you balance your checkbook by adding a category called miscellaneous dragons. But here's the time-only solution. If Sabine's video is correct and mass equals time, specifically mass is just a frequency measurement, then we can potentially delete dark matter entirely. Here is the logic as explained to me by my research assistant Kyle, who is currently trying to measure the speed of light using a stopwatch and a flashlight. The hypothesis is we don't need kilograms, we only need ticks of a clock. Heavy things are just things that tick very fast at a high frequency. The application is when we look at a distant galaxy, we think we are seeing missing mass dark matter pulling things around. But here's the twist. What if there is no missing mass? What if the clocks in those galaxies are just ticking at a different rate than our standard cesium transition here on Earth due to some cosmic scale factor we haven't accounted for? The result would be that if mass is just time and time behaves weirdly at galactic scales, then dark matter is just an accounting error. We aren't missing matter, we are just misinterpreting the time signatures of those galaxies. So how do we test this? This is where it gets fun, and by fun I mean expensive. Instead of building giant underground tanks to catch dark matter particles, which we have been doing for decades with zero success, we build atomic clock interferometers and launch them into deep space. If the one constant theory holds, you should be able to detect a specific kind of clock jitter or time drag as you move away from a galaxy's center. You wouldn't measure a gravitational pull from invisible matter. You would measure a desynchronization of time that exactly mimics the presence of mass. Here's the prediction. If you fly a clock through a dark matter-rich zone, old physics says the clock feels gravity from invisible particles. But one constant physics says the clock becomes the measurement of the mass itself. If the clock drift matches the galaxy's rotation curve exactly without needing invisible particles, boom, you've solved dark matter by proving it's just a time dilation artifact. Basically, the universe isn't heavy, it's just late. This fits perfectly with my worldview, as I have never met a deadline that didn't feel physically heavy. I explained this to my dog. He suggests that if time equals mass, then waiting for dinner actually makes the food bigger. I cannot find a flaw in his logic. Now, at this point, I realized there was a problem. This is all very impressive, but I can't test this theory. I don't have access to deep space atomic clock interferometers. So I thought, what if we could come up with something a little more practical, like alchemy? Maybe Sabine has figured out the universal constant, but perhaps she hasn't extended it into turning lead into gold. What if there's something I can actually test using everyday technology, and after proving this theory right, patent it and sell it next Thursday for $1 billion? And that's when I came up with the idea for digital alchemy. Here's what I want: to turn lead, useless data and heat, into gold, money, and energy. I consulted with Kyle, who was currently trying to turn a stack of parking tickets into gold by putting them in the toaster. While he waited for the fire department, I devised a testable experiment based on the mass equals time hypothesis. Here is the billion-dollar idea: the chronological energy arbitrage. If Sabine is right, energy is just frequency. Energy equals h times f, where h is Planck's constant and f is frequency. Therefore, energy equals time. Your laptop battery stores energy. According to the hypothesis, it is actually just storing time. When your battery dies, it hasn't run out of electrons, it has run out of seconds. Here's the alchemy. If we can manipulate the frequency of your CPU, the clock speed, without doing actual work, we should theoretically be able to trick the universe into refunding your battery life. We aren't creating energy, which is illegal in this universe. We are slowing down local time to create a surplus. I call this the infinite battery loop experiment. Do not actually do this. I am a humorist, not an electrical engineer. If your laptop melts and fuses with your desk, I owe you nothing but a sympathetic nod. Step 1, the setup. We need to create a standing wave of data. Matter is just a standing wave of time, so we need to create a digital rock. Step 2, the code. I call this the philosopher's script. We need a script that timestamps a variable, waits 0 seconds, timestamps it again, and compares the difference. If time b minus time a equals 0, you have stopped time. If you have stopped time, your energy consumption should be 0. If you run this on all cores of your processor, you are effectively freezing the universe inside your laptop. Step 3, the observation. Run a high-intensity task like rendering 4K video of a cat falling off a sofa. Simultaneously run the time-stop script. The hypothesis is the script hogs the CPU cycles, forcing the time variable to dilate. The alchemy is your battery percentage should freeze, or if we get the frequency resonance just right, go up. You are converting processing time back into stored potential energy. Now, if this works, we don't sell the app, we sell the entropy reversal. We tell the power company that we aren't drawing power from the grid, we are merely borrowing their frequency and returning it slightly used. I ran a simulation of this on my own machine. Here's the result. My fan spun so fast it achieved lift, and the laptop is now hovering near the ceiling. The battery did not recharge, but the heat output was sufficient to cook a small egg. It turns out that even if mass equals time, Apple has strictly copyrighted the conversion rate. The one constant in the Apple ecosystem is that you always need to buy a new dongle. So here's next Thursday's plan. We skip the science. We simply market a USB stick called the quantum chronometer. It does nothing, but it has a blinking blue light. We sell it to audiophiles for $5,000 as a device that aligns the temporal frequency of their bass. We will be rich by Friday. So there you have it. In the span of one afternoon, we managed to eliminate 85% of the universe's dark matter, prove that the universe isn't heavy, it's just late, and theoretically invent a laptop that hovers, though mostly due to fan speed and panic. We are currently holding off on the patent for the quantum chronometer USB stick, largely because my legal team, the dog, has advised me that selling a blinking light that does nothing is technically fraud, although it worked wonders for the crypto industry. As you recall these infographics, remember this: the universe is a strange place held together not by invisible ghost particles, but by the ticking of a clock we can't see. Or maybe it's just held together by duct tape. We're still testing that hypothesis. And if your laptop actually starts hovering, please open a window. That is not physics. That is a fire hazard. Thank you for watching.